したね。俺入ってますか？音と声入ってます？入ってるね。音が若干ちっちゃいのかな。ああ。もうちょっとちっちゃくしよう。なのでいっか。ちょっとちっちゃくしよう。はい、始めますね。
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
待て。あれあるよな。あれ字幕ないっけこれ。字幕なかったら終わりだよ。あれえあれ字幕俺あったと思うんだよね、俺の記憶では。でもなくない？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided.
字幕あるよな。あれ調べよう、ちょっと。 ビデオにないんだよ。ある。パンチ順レター。死ぬほどバグった一瞬。うわ。なくね？なんかね、調べたらね、音が小さい。音が小さいだ。はい。それはいいんだけど。声が小さい。ああ。で、多分なんかね、やんなきゃいけないらしい、字幕入れるの。えーっと、出てんだ、これ。2014年の記事だよ、これ。日本語が手順。めんどくさそう、ちょっと。あ、これやんなきゃいけないんだよ、でもね。そうね、有志のパッチ。やりますか？これとこれダウンロードして、リソースに、やつと、それコピーする。だっと、なんでもいいか。なんでか。有志のパッチ。PC ゲーって、マジで、クリエイター側と意味不明なユーザーで成り立ってんだ。これもダメでしょ？そう。それでしょ？で、そんで、 ちょっと待って。こうか。待てよこれか。プログラムリソース。これか。んどれだダットと、ピッシュ。ちょっと待って。はあ。それでいいんか。怖い。めちゃめちゃ怖いわ。ファイルを置き換える。こうか。して、置き換える。はい。OK。そしたら、一旦、した方がいいかな。あれ聞こえない？それはそっちの音量が小さいのでなくて、あと、今、あれだよ。あんまり大きい声で喋ってないよ。今ってかさっきは。で、OBS のマイク出力、マイク入力。OBS のマイク入力ね、最大なんだよね。ああ。そんなにちっちゃい？画面映んなくなったんだけど、今度は。画面映んなくなったんだけど。あ、映った。なんで？そんなにちっちゃい？ああ、聞こえませんか？ね。確かにちっちゃい気がする。はい。どうでしょう。 ってねえな。まあいいか。いいべ。大きい声出します。頑張って。やろうぜ。
This is the story of a
あ、間違
man
えた。
named
どうやってやんだっけ。待て。どうやってるって言ったくそ、面倒。VTuber なら怒られる。そうですか。仕方ないです。ちょっと待って。スタインになっちゃった。で、オーディオ、クローズキャプション、ヘルキャプション。これか。できんのか。
all of his
あ、できた。
co-workers were
よ
gone.
し。
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
ゲーム音でかい？大丈夫か。OK。最初のうちはやることないよな。しゃがめるわ。あと何がで
When
きるんだろう。
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
リクエスト聞こうか。ルート。俺のルートでいい？迷うわ、これ。左って即終わりだっけ？か。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
ほとんど一方通行なんだよな。行けるとこないもんね。ドアとか開かないもんね。
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully, but eager to get back to business. Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
あ、なんかもうだいぶあれじゃないか、これ。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
スタンリーは背くところから始まるから。
Stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm
最初のう
not
ちは
asking
背い
for
ていき
me,
ましょう。
I'm asking for her.
はあ、だって。
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
どこに？暗い。あ、うわ、これか。
That's
知って
her,
るぞ、俺こ
Stanley.
れ。
You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone. As Stanley picked up the phone, a white light engulfed him, filling him not just with radiance, but with hope. Hope for a life reunited one...
これ
Wait,
考えたや
oh
つ天
goodness.
才だよな。
Stanley, did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly.
これす
I
ご
didn't
いな。
even know that was
衝
possible.
撃だよな。
Let me double check. No,
Why don't I-
it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to
Sort
his
of.
apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge
Why did that
themselves to
time
one
go there?
another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see...
なんだ。
No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Stephen has a choice. He could spend years helping improve the quality of life for citizens of impoverished third world nations. Or he could systematically set fire to every orphan living in a 30-kilometer radius of his house. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack."
え終わった。練習だって。
Excellent.
はい。
Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process.
はあは
Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make
Pero
more
junto
than
a-
8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
やってくれるらしい。
Ah, welcome back. You
Ah.
may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a
Ah.
result of narrative contradiction. But not to
Why?
worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
はい。あっちはいいんですかもう。戻んなきゃいけないのかな。あ、出た。
Now that
柵
we
が
know
出て
your
る。
choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main
Ah, yeah,
character
yeah,
dying
that's all,
senselessly
that's all.
halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
どうやって展開していくのかはもう全然覚えてないからな。基本的に閉じてるドアはいけないんだっけ？何ができるわけでもなく、進む方向を決めるだけか。
Almost there.
Hi.
You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending. The story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that?
Oh,
Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
トリックアートっていうか、あれみたいになってる。なんて言うんだっけ。ああ、大変だ、これは。なんかもう。ああ、大変だ。戻るしかない。戻るしかないのかい。あ、開かないか。戻るしかないのか。左の道はどうなってしまったのかというところ。意外とバグってないぞ。バグってるわ。
It's ruined. I can't believe after everything we talked about that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what?
Why?
What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
アルタ。びっくりした。ああじゃないよ。お前、これあれだよ、お前。フリー以外の伏線だよ。どうしたの？
I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You. Who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard. Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
これってどう変わっていくんだろう。ちょっと迷うな。正しい方を選んでみたい気もする。間違え続けたらそれはそれでつまらないかもしれないな。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
戻れないな。これもうあれかな。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
あそこどう
office.
やって入るね。欠陥住宅じゃないか。住宅じゃねえや。もう一方通行これ。一方通行これ。だったら面白
Stepping
くない。
inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this
これ普通に
until he saw the
やったら
door
普通
with
に
a
やったら面
voice
白いスト
receiver
ーリー
next to it.
なのか
Surely
意外と
behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Night Shark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out.
こ
Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
う何もしないでいるやつあるよな多分
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115.
マ
He
ーカー
spoke
つけら
it
れて
into the receiver, right there on the wall.
探索してるんだよこっちは
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise, we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial
しょう
step.
がねえな出てんのあ出てんの
Okay, fine. You're not going to do it.
do
But you
it,
know
oh,
what?
shit.
It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. When Stanley came to a set of two
Whoa.
doors, he entered the door on his left.
行けよ
Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay?
意外と濃い顔をしてい
Stanley,
る
please. I need you to make a choice.
Yeah.
I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening
What
to
the-
me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever
え
know.
マイクで言えばいたな
I need this. The story
What's it?
needs it.
マイクがない人はどうすればいいんだ
So, you hear me? Are you there? You listening to this? Stanley, are you there?
こんななんか
Okay.
怖く
It's
ないんです
okay, I can wait.
中の人の存在が消えて空になってしまったんだ
Time to make
へ
sure
え
your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait
あ
for you
そ
to
っか
decide
俺が
what's the
そっか
right
入っ
thing
て
to
ないから
do.
何にもできなくなっちゃ
Take
っ
as
た
much time as you
怖っ
need.
うん始まったぜ
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
やばいな
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
行ってみよう行ってみようよわかんだ
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
なるほどねちゃんと逆らってから行ったからああなってたんだなるほど
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
めちゃめちゃ怖い。
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, And in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
さもいい話のことかのように。一瞬で終わった。左ルート全部。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
上司の部屋に
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
どこまで行ったの？
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
さっきとドアが違う気がする。あ。お？さっきと違う。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. If he knew that the combo was 2845, it would be another story entirely. But no, this is what he was going to do instead. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
わかんないな。
2845.
脅されてる。090。40。
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
おお、そっちなんだ。ダメでしょ。いや、ダメでしょ。何開いてんねん。お前、あれとしてダメだぞ、それは。セキュリティシステムとしてダメすぎやしてんか。もうねえか。なんだここは。暗い。外が明るいからもう画面が光反射して。なんてでっかいボタンなんだ。ロード入った。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
怖いよ。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
逃げるぞ。
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
ネタバレやめてください。
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on
ル
track.
ープしてるわけでもないんだ。
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk
なんで
forward
そんな場所を
and
作るんだ
willingly
よ。
confront his death.
作る必要なかっただろ。うわー。え、生きてる？この高さから落ちたら人は死ぬ。え、
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence
なんで
whatsoever.
こんな場所が
Stanley
入る
can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in
ず
his
るいと
narrow
思う
vision
か。あ、
of
それ
what
意外と少ないんだ。
Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind
ガ
man.
チ怖いけど。
So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow
なん
life.
かなかったっけ？止まって。なんかあるでしょ。俺普通に怖すぎて嫌なんだけど。お、止まった。
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
うわ。うわ。
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
どこまでいけるんですかね、これ。あ、ダメだ。ダッシュがしたいところである。うわ。
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
おいい。え？なんか右下になんか出てきた。The two doors。ああ、出た、two doors。ギャラリーやんけ。ネイチャーペインティングス。スタンリーズコンピューター。ドア。ファイリングキャビネッツ。オフィスコンピューター。お。オフィス。すげえ。クレジット。普通にいや、なんか。ね、そうよね。なんかゲーム終わってるわけじゃないはずなのにね。Point of the sign for I'm going to increase the movie. あ、これルートか？あ、知らない場所だ。終わってるのこれ。これ終わってんだ。これで、あ、そういうことか。お。ああ。
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one
まあ終わっ
another.
ているといえば終
How
わって
they
いるし、
wish
終
to
わっていない
control
といえば終
one
わってない。
another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
第三者という
But listen to
という
me.
か
You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time.
これがもういや怖いわ。ええ死んだの？死んだ。死んだ。あ、死んだ。そうか。クリアとしかゲームオーバーとかじゃなくて
All of his co-workers
死
were
んだわ
gone.
け。
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
もうないか。左はもうない。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
まあ、いや、てか当初
Wow.
見たときは
Yes,
衝
this
撃だったよ
room.
ね、確かに。
What but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first
なん
open
ていうんだ
door
っ
on
て
his
その
left.
ゲームと
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
ゲームと現実のなんとか境目がどうとやらみたいなやつ。
But Stanley didn't want to go
Number.
back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
しょうがない。
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, it's to the right, my
びっ
mistake.
くりしたまま。
No,
Huh?
no, not the right.
どうした？大
Why
丈夫
would
か？
I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
シャッターが開いた。おお。そんななんかもっとやばそう。うわ。
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top.
従ったら従ったであれだね。やばそう。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he
もう
had
完
simply
全に
missed
終
a
わり
memo.
なのかな。でも
When Stanley...
Oh.
Wait,
Oh.
what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
この辺りに
It was
物語
right
が
here
あ
just
る
a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay then. It's an adventure.
うお。
Come, Stanley.
探
Let's
すぜ。
find the story.
右の右。つながってるやんけ。ああ。 右の右の左の。おあつながってるわ。あ、右の、これ普通右か。
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again?
こっち
Well, I
行った
find it unlikely that we'll ever progress
Oh,
by starting
なるほど。
over and over again, but it's got to be better than
なる
this.
ほどね。
Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
知らないか。見てみようじゃ
All
ない
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
死に向かうところで引き返すのも、ああ、なるほどね。ああ、やっちゃ
Okay,
っ
yep,
た。
it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong.
まだ
It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
道はあるかな。こぼれてたっけこれ。
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The
何か変わ
story.
ったら
Here
しい
it。comes.
え
No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
マニュアルよく読め。おっと。おー、いい。
Now this... Well, I'll be honest. I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story?
なん
I
か
don't think so.
全然違う
I
建物に来ちゃ
can't
った
quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that
俺
correct?
もそう思う。
Do you
う
remember,
わ、な
Stanley?
いし。
Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
は
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right
So-
about this at all. We both know you didn't put in
Alright,
any
not to
actual
sure.
work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations.
あ、何と
Okay,
かしてくれたまえ
I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
おお、
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
えいや、会議室に行くんだよ。何言ってんだよ。会議室に行くんだよ。
No, no, I'm down. We're leaving it up to the line from now on.
なんでああ、そういうことああ、なるほどね。はいはいはいはい。まあいいだろうね。
You see, the line knows where the story
Yes,
is.
Lord.
It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination,
やば
even
い
if there's no
自分を
story there?
疑い始めた。
Or to put it another way, is the
Well,
story
I'll
of
say
no
so.
destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right?
はいはい。何で
Okay.
すか
Now,
難しい
if my
話してる。
experience of your
Nanga.
existence rests
難し
inside
い
of
のだ。
your subjective
あれ
experience of this office, is this office in fact the skeleton of my own relative
Oh, that's right.
experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all
回っ
that.
てるか、そうそう、
You
間
know
違えてた
what?
な、普通に。
I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
うわ、うるせえよ、やめろやめろやめろやめろやめろ。やめろ、うるせえ。くっそうるせえ。 いや、いいかな。付き合ってやる。いや、マジでうるさい。本当にうるさいな。ちょっと待って。それから。なんか、ちょうどいいじゃないか。だらったら。これ気持ち悪いな。この時点でやばいよね。どう見ても。ダイヤル回す。ああ、ダイヤル回す。そっちの音がちっちゃくなっちゃったか。爆音にするわ。
Cut the music, go back
Eh?
and look at that fern.
なんでだよ。もういいよ。
Stanley, this fern will be very
Is it-
important
oh,
later in the story.
わかったわかったわか
Make
った
sure you study it closely.
伏線
And
見
wait,
せるん
what-
じゃねえよ。
we're back at the office? No, Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a
あ
bell?
最初のとここれ。ああ、さっきはこっち行ったのか。で、こっちから切って、こう。こっちから来たんだっけ。ああ、こっちから来たね。そうだ。あれどっちから来たんだか分からなくなっちゃった。こっちか。ああ、なんかこうだったような気がするな。こっちは会議室か。こっちはもういいですって言われたんだっけ。こっちか。だらったら、うい
Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you,
Well,
after
yeah.
everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
やめろよ、お前。
You know what, Stanley?
Oi,
I say forget the
なんだ
adventure
よ、
line.
優
What's
柔
it
不
ever
断とい
done
うか
for
なんていう
us?
か、
We're intelligent people, right? Why
優
can't
柔
we
不断
make
じゃなく
up
て、な
our
んて
own
言うんだっけ、こう
story?
いうの。
Something exciting, daring, mysterious.
I
Ooh,
don't-
this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
お、行ってみようじゃないの。
Now, yes, this is exciting.
仲良く
Just
なって
me
きちゃ
and
った。
Stanley forging a new path, a
なん
new
か最
story.
初
Well,
は
it could be anything.
スタンリー
What
が
do you
悪い
want
とか
our
言って
story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be,
もう終わ
Stanley,
りでは。
I'm ready for it.
道がありますよ。
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor
利子があ
rooms.
るかね。
Just don't acknowledge it.
打ち破っ
It
て
should
出
be
てきた。
fine.
むしろとは言っても一方通行だからね。トリックアートみたいになってる。あ、どっか行っちゃったじゃん。どこ行くねー。おう。
Ah, a choice.
お、すご
We
い。
get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute.
あ
Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means
歩か
that
せんじゃねえよ。
somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination
裏の逆の反
corresponds
対
with
側
that
のドアの
counter-inverted
出発点
reverse
とする。
door's origin.
裏
So
の
starting
逆
from the
の
right,
反
let
対
us
側
ask,
の
will taking the right door lead us to where we're going?
知らな
And
いよ。
since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the
全然
door
わから
on
ん。
the right
何
is
の
the
論理なん
correct
だ。
one. Another
今の
victory
ど
for
こに論
logic.
理性があったのか
Come,
教えてほしい。
Stanley. Our destiny awaits.
あ、俺右しか開けてくんないじゃん。選択。お前が選択するんかーい。何
Oh, hold up. What's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending?
あ、
And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times?
8回リスタートしたからっ
That's
てこと。
really how all this goes?
すごい。
It's all determined?
お前じゃなかったんだ。
So
決め
now,
てたのは
according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to
あ、
forget?
今までの。
My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted
全
me?
部あれだったの
Why
か。
don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is
自
it
分が
really?
決めていたと思い込んで
No,
い
it
た。
can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. The timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the
ここに
cycle?
怖いから。
The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
すごい、もうなんか、何が、
So, okay. I
何が
guess
なんだか
now
わ
we
か
just
んないね、
wait.
これ。
You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you do happen to have a...
え強制リスタートだ。何事もなかっ
All of his
たことに
co-workers
さ
were
れている。
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
他には
When
Ah,
Stanley
this had
came to a set of
done
two open doors, he
Kiyoku
entered the door on
nakushatta
his left.
かわいそうに。あと何ができる
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first,
もう
just
ちょ
to
っと左の
admire
ルー
it.
トももうちょっとあるかな。
The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it about this room? But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
閉じてる。何か変わるのか
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
これはあんま変わんないかな。あのエンドになるのかな。潰されるとこどこだっけ？もっと先？もっと先か。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
おい。いいんだよ、そんなの。どっからよ、音楽
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated,
適当なとこで止めるんじゃねえよ。
into the opened passageway.
止めるとここっちか。ニューエイジミュージックにどういう効果があったんだろう。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
まあ控えしてみますかね。
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his
なん
violent
でそん
death.
なのを作るんだい？そんな望んでもいないルート。
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. But of course,
you got the
Stanley
button.
thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for.
こっちはなんもない。ああ、なんもなさそう。真っ暗だね。なんもないわ。マインドコントロールファシリティ。暗いな。ああ、引き返したところでか。ペカー。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
あ、ちゃんとある、あそこ。用意されとるやんけ、道が。でかい。どでかボタン。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed.
解雇されたやつ。
Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
これはこれでちょっとした壮大なあれだよね。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
ギャラリーで見たエレベーターだ、これ。
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
ものすっごい皮肉だ。
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
どうすりゃええんやろか。どうすりゃええんやろか。あ、パワーがそんやね。もうどれかわからん。何のあれだ。スタンリーあれかっていう話。4だって。4らしい。4? インサイドヘッド感。インサイドヘッド見てない。1 2コンソールディセーブルだ。ディセーブルってなんだっけ？使えないみたいな。33は？あ、待って、あれそう。3あった。順番に押しゃいいのかな。そんな面白いの？一時期話題になってたのは知ってる。このボタン関係ある？なんか 関係なさそう。順番に押したけど。どれがね、正解なんだいこれ。そんなあれどっちなんだっけサマ
And when at
The
last he
Samantha.
found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to
Shishuna.
everything it stood for.
オン。
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control?
そうだ。
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons. No, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button. Or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? One soul? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say happily ever after.
これで終わりか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
あの赤いボタ
Stanley
ンなんだった
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
なんか変わんないか、さっきと。これだと。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his
終わり
boss's
かな、もう。
office. Okay, I think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Quelle surprise.
まあ、ナレーターは確かに意味ないって言ってたけど、マジで意味ないのか。あ、本当？あ、赤いボタンも意味ないよって言ってさ、全部意味ないよみたいな言ってたのはわかるけど。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
もう変わんないかな、これ。はいはいって言ってたよ、さっき。
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold?
オ
Stanley
フのスイ
thought
ッチ、
to
オフのスイ
himself.
ッチはもうあ
Did
れ
he
だよ
have
ね、
the
完全
strength
に
to find out?
トゥルっていうかその指示通りだよな、多分な。
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
あ、てか、こんなカメラあるのかな、実際。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true.
でも解雇
Had
されたやつ
Stanley
って
really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
ちょっとしたお話や。
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
オンを押した時にだけ開くのかな。アイドリングストップってやつか。始まった。
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty.
なんか上上がって終わりだったような気がする。なんだっけ。これ散ってる気がするんだよ。
Yes,
あ、そうそうそうそう。
he had won.
なんか
He had defeated the machine,
緑色の
unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved.
すごいね。
Where
なんか
had his co-workers
ま
gone?
ともに
How had he been freed from
や
the
っ
machine's
たルー
grasp?
ト、
What
従っ
other
たルートが
mysteries did
一
this
番
strange building hold?
薄っぺらい
But
感じ
as
する。
sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it
Adoro
was not
sa-
knowledge or even power that he had been
なんだ
seeking,
っけ、スタンリ
but
ー・パラベル。
happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to
なん
understand,
か頭おかしいルートがまだあった気がするんだよね。
no longer would anyone tell him
ボ
where to
タン
go,
を
what
何
to
時
do,
間
or how to feel.
か押し続けるみたいな
Whatever
ルートがあ
life
っ
he
た気が
lives,
するんだけ
it will be his. And that was all he needed to know.
ど、どうやってやる
It
の？
was perhaps the only thing worth knowing.
あったと思うんだ
Stanley
よ。
stepped through the open door.
これ出ない？あれあるかな。チュンチュン言ってるわ。ここどこだよ。なんもないかな、さすがに。待つのも面倒だな。あ、終わりか。
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path
オ
before
フィ
him.
スだったはずなんだけど。
This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
なんか実績みたいなのかな、これ。え？
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
同じ？入り口が変わっただけ？
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping him coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
これでもループして終わりだもんな。あ、いける？
Here's the door, just go.
何回も来るとそうなるんだ。ああ、準備か。そうね、9時、そうね。調べてやろうかな、全部のルート。もう同じっぽいな、でも。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
同じか。じゃあやめるか。同じじゃなかったのかな。同じじゃなかったかもしれないな、今の。
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
もうナレーターすら変わってるわ。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time understood true happiness. Then the feeling went away, and he felt sad again. Then it came back, and lingered for a minute or two. Now it's only half there, just a kind of,
どん
tingle.
どん変わっていくセリフが。
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
ナチュラルデスしてしまった。変わ
All
っ
of
た
his
よ。
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
これは
well.
どういうこと？
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the
入り口が変わる
employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach,
Whoa.
giddy in a way he had never known before.
全然セリフ
Was
違
it
う。
this room? A connection between the two? Could a man love a room? I mean, truly,
ということ全
truly,
然わからん。
deeply,
ど
madly love.
ういう、あれなの？病んでるのか、この間は。
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't
変わ
5
っているような
years
変
ago.
わっていないような。何度も死んだらこれ変わるっけ？
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
検証するには時間が足りない。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.